YouTube. So I have a question for a lot of you people who have been misguided by the liberal media and who who have been misguided throughout history, and you're just going by what they've been wanting to teach you people. So my question is this: slavery. If Africans sold each other on the market to Caucasian sailors and traders, slave traders, my question is, where are the photos of slaves on ships? They made it seem so horrible that they chained up all these Africans, all these black people, whatever you want to call them, and they put them on the ships. And they had them at the bottom of the ship, the bow of the ship, all chained up. Hardly any food. Defecating and pissing on each other in the bows of a ship. And then they brought them to market, and they stood them in front of a crowd as specimens. Look at this Negro. He's muscular. His physique is impeccable. He can be a good slave for you. And they sold him like that. So the better condition that they were in, the potential of selling them and making money off of them was greater. So it was in their interest to keep these slaves healthy. But according to history, they weren't healthy. They were at the bottom and they were barely fed, and they really couldn't feed them. And those that they couldn't feed, they threw them overboard in chains. Right? They threw them overboard in chains. What you think about that for a second? Now, the camera was invented in what, 18? I've heard as far as long ago as 1826, but definitely with some innovations by 1835. That's when the camera was doing its thing. And there are still photos being created in 1835 by the camera. Now, if slavery ended in what, 1865, I believe. More than 25 years. But there's no photos of slaves on ships. Not one. You see blacks on ships. You see a bunch of African kids on ships and some women and some young men. But they're not chained. And they don't look oppressed. They look fed. I've seen those photos. But you will not find me one photo. Now, this was the event of a lifetime during that time. This was the biggest, if not the biggest event going on, was slavery, where you get to sell people so they can work for you. A whole 25 years into photography, and not one slave picture of a slave on a ship. Or slaves on a ship. In chains. In the bows of a ship. Now, photography was big. I mean, you can find sailors taking pictures on ships and all kind of stuff during the time. I mean, they were taking pictures like crazy back then when photography was big. Not crazy, but enough. But the biggest event in history, which was slavery, black Africans here in America, and no pictures. Not one. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying slavery never existed and it didn't happen in America. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they weren't transported here on ships. You see, because black people or people with melanin have always been here. They make it seem like you were never here. But black people have always been here. And that's what they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know that black people have always been in America, in the Americas. Now, they don't want you to know that. That's why you're not going to find blacks on ships. You're not going to find pictures of slaves on ships. With the newest invention, photography, 25 years in, 25 years into slavery, and not one picture of slaves on ships. Not one true picture. But you'll see a bunch of depictions. You'll see drawings and cartoons and stories. You see that shit, the word of mouth bullshit. You hear that too. You'll see somebody going down in the Mississippi River digging up some wood saying that was a slave ship. You see that shit. But you never hear of anyone. You know, you hear of ships that were found from the 1700s. Viking ships that survive in the ocean years and years and years and hundreds of years. Even thousands of years they have some ships. Thousands of years old. You find chains and metals and chariot wheels and all kind of stuff that's thousands of years old in the what is it called? The Euphrates River and the rivers in Egypt, the Nile River, and in the oceans, the Atlantic and the Titanic, all these things back in the day, right? But now you don't find slaves, you don't find bones or chains or slave ships or anything like that. You don't find those slave ships. People make up stuff. It's not real history. It's what they want to feed you. See, they're not good at teaching you how to think. They're good at teaching you what to think. And so many people are programmed. Like I said, I'm not saying slavery never existed. But what I am saying is, what you've been told is a lie. Black people aren't someone that came from Africa on ships. You don't think black people, the Moors, were capable of building their own ships and traveling to America just like anyone else? You don't think the Moors were the blacks who gave Caucasians some math? Huh? You don't think black people were smart enough to do their own thing and make it to America on their own? And the Indians walked through the Bering Strait while it was frozen over and came to America. Why couldn't the blacks do it? Everyone else could do it except the blacks. That's weird to me. But yet the blacks still feed into this narrative that they weren't here originally. They weren't the original people here in Americas. It was the Spaniards and the Mexicans and the Native Indians that were here first. But yeah, you see these big old carved stone heads that look straight like black people. They straight look like African people. They look like they have football helmets on their heads. Forget the name of the stones. Before the 1800s. Now, black people weren't here, though. Y'all can keep believing the bullshit that they feed you. Peace the fuck out.